As if the pain of losing a loved one isn't not overwhelming enough, some people have to face their family members' murderers in court, most of whom never show any remorse. And given the pain that comes with burying your own child, it is no surprise that the following convicts were attacked by their victims' families in court.
You know that I can't do that. That's not how our legal system works.
Formerly a well-liked sports medicine specialist and the team doctor for the U.S. women's national gymnastics team, Larry Nassar is now notorious for his horrific acts. His name is now known for the unspeakable abuse that Nassar inflicted on hundreds of young athletes while posing as a medical professional. Let's head over to Ingham County Court, where we explore the murky depths of Nassar's predatory actions, as well as the shocking and unexpected turn of events that transpired in court. Larry Nassar served as the esteemed team doctor for the United States women's national gymnastics team for 18 years, gaining trust with time. His ascent to fame appeared unstoppable, and the gymnastics community held him in high regard due to his qualifications and reputation. He was not only a doctor, but also a mentor, confidant, and a support system for these young athletes. But beneath the surface, there was a predator right there in the open. The first cracks in Nassar's facade started to show in 2016. Allegations of sexual assault began to emerge as courageous young women gained the confidence to confront their abuser. These gymnasts, who had previously idolized the man, disclosed the terrifying truth that Nassar had betrayed their trust and their bodies under the pretense of medical care. It was astounding how many victims had suffered under his abuse. More than 265 women and girls came forward to tell of their experiences being treated by Nassar. His atrocities were of an almost incomprehensible magnitude. It was utterly shocking that someone entrusted with the lives of young athletes would commit such horrible deeds. Emotions were running high in the courtroom as Larry Nassar faced his accusers. It was during this moment of peak tension that a momentous event occurred. An enraged and distressed parent of 3 of the victims lost control of their rage seeing Nassar before the judge. He abruptly charged toward Nassar, his eyes brimming with a mixture of pain and fury. Chaos broke out as security guards hurried to intervene.
I would ask you to, as part of this sentencing, to grant me 5 minutes in a locked room with this demon.
I have
Would
a
you
feeling.
do that?
That is not how
Yes
our.
or
No, sir, I can't.
Would you
do
give me
that.
1 minute?
You know that I can't do that. That's not how our legal
Well,
system
I'm
works.
The attack was a visceral reaction to Nassar's horrible acts, a moment that encapsulated the suffering and rage of the victims and their loved ones. Once a haven of justice, the courtroom had now evolved into a battlefield of raw emotions. The aftermath was a state of shock and disorientation, cries and gasps being heard throughout the courtroom as the parent was restrained and taken outside. Randall Margraves, the parent who attacked Nassar, ideally would have been charged with contempt of court, but the judge opted not to after he apologized. It was now time for the sentencing. On December 7, 2017, Nassar was given a 60-year sentence to serve in federal prison. However, that wasn't the end. In January and February of 2018, Nassar entered guilty pleas to 2 counts of aggravated sexual assault and was sentenced to 2 terms ranging from 40 to 175 years in prison. This essentially guaranteed that Nassar would be imprisoned for the remainder of his life and would never be able to hurt another innocent person. The effects of Nassar's crimes went well beyond the confines of the courtroom. His abuse had brought to light long-standing problems in the institutions that condoned his actions. Nassar's employer, Michigan State University, came under heavy fire for how it handled the abuse incident. The university finally agreed to startling $500 million settlement with Nassar's victims, admitting that they had failed to protect the young athletes from the sexual predator. While Nassar's behavior raised eyebrows, it's nothing compared to the disturbing actions of 20-year-old Edwin Wren, who abused a 9-month-old baby. This is Edwin Wren. He is in a Volusia County court being charged with sexually assaulting a 9-month-old baby. In 2011, his sick actions left the child with such severe trauma that she had to undergo reconstructive surgery. At the time of the crime, Wren was living with the baby's parents in a house near New Smyrna Beach, and they would leave him to tend to her at times. As if his actions weren't disgusting enough, Wren tried to blame them on voices that he claimed to have heard on that fateful day, adding that he blacked out during the act.
Sitting on the couch about to watch a movie, and I heard a voice in my head telling me to do something to her.
This is the only time that you've had a blackout and forgot what happened, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
But the prosecutor disagreed, pointing to the lengths Wren went in order to cover up his crime.
How many times did you ask her to lie for you?
Once.
And what did you tell her to say?
That I was with her.
Eventually, Wren was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Most of the time, it is usually the victim's family that attacks the convict. However, sometimes other inmates get appalled by sex offenders too, and don't hesitate to show their disgust. That was the case of Christopher Elwell. Christopher Elwell, 29, is being prosecuted at the Startford Superior Courthouse for sexually assaulting a 4-year-old girl at a Mineral Park home. Elwell was staying at the house when the victim came over. 2 additional children, ages 4 and 9, were also there. According to the prosecution, the girls described him as showing them sexual tapes similar to what he had done.
Described him showing them videos of sexual acts similar to the ones that she had done.
Elwell first denied the charges, but he afterwards admitted they were true. But that was not all he pleaded guilty to. Elwell also pleaded guilty to failing to register as a sex offender after being convicted in 2008 of a different offense.
And it was required to register as a sex offender and had been living at 12 Mineral Park Drive off and on, but more than 5 times a month, and had not changed his registration with the Somersworth Police Department.
But it wasn't until moments after he got sentenced that something unexpected happened in the courtroom. As soon as he sat down on the bench, another inmate headbutted him, clearly showing his disgust for sex offenders. Let's see that headbutt again. Yeah, go to hell, Elwell. Elwell was taken out of court and sentenced to 7.5 to 15 years in prison. Next, we head down to Cuyahoga for the case of Michael Madison.
Right now, I guess we're supposed to, in our hearts, forgive this time. Let's trust our families.
We're at the Cuyahoga County Common Pleas Court, where the case of American serial killer and sex offender Michael Madison is being presided over. Over the course of 9 months in 2012 and 2013, Madison killed at least 3 women in a series of horrific acts. However, it was during the trial that an incredible incident transpired that caught everyone off guard. In the quiet Ohio town of East Cleveland, a malevolent force hid in the shadows. Its name, Michael Madison. The neighborhood would be engulfed in panic due to the violent acts and desires of this cold-blooded killer. Growing up with his extremely violent mother, Diane Madison, young Michael suffered unspeakable suffering. But the abuse didn't end there. He was also the victim of horrific acts of abuse by Diane's numerous boyfriends, which further damaged his already delicate mental state. Michael experienced a dynamic range of emotions as he grew older due to the lingering pain and rage in him. However, the most horrifying revelations about Michael Madison's true nature would come in the years 2012 and 2013. During this period, Michael went on a terrifying 9-month violent rampage, subjecting defenseless women to horrific anguish. The first victim of the string of murders was Shatisha Sheely, a 28-year-old woman who had gone missing in September of 2012. Her family and friends were left in a state of depression after she vanished, not knowing the unbelievable tragedy that had befallen her. As the community struggled to find Shatisha, another case added to the mystery. Another woman, named Angela Deskins, disappeared without a trace. The 38-year-old Cleveland resident was reported missing in June of 2013. Her family members held on to hope and prayed for her safe return. The nightmare, however, was far from over. Another woman disappeared, this time an 18-year-old girl with a promising future named Sherelda Helen Terry. The girl was last seen on July 10, 2013, leaving Cleveland Elementary School, where she worked a summer job. Nobody could have imagined that this would be the last time they saw her alive. A shockwave went through the neighborhood when the bodies were discovered. The lives of Shatisha Sheely, Angela Deskins, and Sherelda Helen Terry had been cruelly taken by a cold-blooded killer, their bodies wrapped in plastic bags and dumped like trash.
Headline from East Cleveland. Authorities believe they could very well have a serial killer in custody. 3 bodies found already. Investigators say they've been told by the suspect there could be more, all of them women. Police, the Sheriff's Department, the FBI, all on the scene.
The country was enthralled with Michael Madison's trial, with many eager for justice to be done. Madison's attorney, David Grant, filed a not guilty plea on October 31, 2013 to an amended indictment that added allegations of aggravated murder motivated by sexual reasons. The prosecution was very clear in their request for the death penalty. Madison's acts were horrifyingly depicted in the 14-count indictment containing 1 count of rape, 3 counts of gross mistreatment of a corpse, 3 counts of kidnapping, 3 counts of aggravated murder for each victim, and 1 count of an ex-convict possessing a weapon. The evidence was overwhelming to his detriment. As the trial got underway, the prosecution methodically laid out their evidence on April 4, 2016, outlining the graphic specifics of Madison's offenses. After the hearing, the jury deliberated for less than a day before returning a verdict. Michael Madison was found guilty on all counts on May 5, 2016. The families of the victims finally witnessed justice being done, the courtroom breaking out in a mix of relief and sadness. Madison displayed little remorse for his actions. The families of the victims were even more devastated when he informed the court that he intended to appeal the decision to the Ohio Supreme Court. On May 20, 2016, the jury recommended that Madison be given the death penalty. The sentence was read on June 2, 2016, anticipation gripping the room as Judge McDonald addressed the defendant. She addressed the horrific nature of Madison's offenses, the suffering that the victims and their families endured, and the necessity of seeing justice done.
It is the judgment of this court that the aggravated circumstances of course of conduct, felony murder, kidnapping, felony murder of which the defendant was convicted outweigh the mitigating factors by proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
Judge McDonald sentenced Michael Madison to death penalty. The weight of the punishment hung in the air as the courtroom became silent. Then, amid the solemnity, something startling happened. Sherrell DeHelen, Terry's father, lost control of his fury. Driven by grief and a need for vengeance, he lunged at Madison, trying to physically confront the man who had killed his daughter. Van Terry was released without charges. His actions were a genuine statement of the damage Madison had done, a visceral reflection of the anguish and outrage felt by the families of the victims. On July 24, 2020, the Ohio Supreme Court subsequently decided unanimously to uphold Michael Madison's death sentence, sealing his fate.